Well, good day, Dr. Spooner. It's nice to see you. Welcoming you here to ask you some questions and interview you a wee bit about being the recipient of our Excellence in Teaching Award from the Alumni Association. It's good to have you.
Oh, I'm glad to be here.
So we're going to jump right in and get a feel from you about Acadia and the role that Acadia plays in your life. So the first question is, what attracted you to Acadia in the first place?
That's a great question. I'll be very blunt. I was just finishing my PhD at University of Calgary, and I had applied to a variety of institutions, and I applied to Acadia, and I got an interview. And this was really exciting because I don't think a lot of people understand that often it's not you, the person, who chooses the university. It's the university that chooses you. It's kind of like Hogwarts to me in the Sorting Hat. And so when I got the interview at Acadia, I talked to my wife, and we were super excited. It was on the East Coast. It was lobsters and scallops. It was it was the blue nose. It was all these great things. And so I was immediately excited, but I wasn't going to count my eggs before they hatched. So then I came out here, and I came out here in spring for the interview, and I flew over in a plane, looked down, because I'm a geoscientist, an environmental geoscientist, and it was like flying over Ireland. Everything was beautifully green, and I had been flying from a very, and those folks out west will understand this, a very yellow Calgary. Nothing had bloomed yet. And so it was really like, it was very special. And so I went through the interview, and I was offered a 2-year position, and I'll never forget being in the Blomidon Inn and phoning back to my wife and saying, "What should I do?" And she said, "Accept the position." And we've never looked back. It was just, I think the whole experience was so positive.
That's so wonderful to hear. And we often at Acadia refer to the pixie dust. And what you've described there is a good example of that quintessential East Coast experience. But on top of that Acadia experience and that Acadia feel.
I felt sort of like an undergraduate might feel is sort of coming from away. And so I think that really helped me understand what attracts folks here. It was really, I had the same kind of feeling. I was coming here for the first time. I had not been to Acadia beforehand. I will say, too, that I was coming to a department with Sandra Barr, Rob Rayside, Barry Cameron, Nancy Van Wagner was here at the time, a bunch of people who were very well respected in my field. And so it was coming into a department that was really a high-flying department at the time.
Absolutely. One might say rock solid.
Yeah, one might say that.
So since you've been here, Ian, is there anyone in particular on campus who has, particularly influenced your career or influenced where you are right now?
Well, I'd like to talk about the early days, because in the early days, certainly a huge influence on me have been Rob Rayside and Sandra Barr. They're the heart and soul of our department. And I'm extremely grateful to them for the mentorship. Rob is known, as just a gem, and Sandra is one of our premier researchers and teachers as well. I believe both of them have been awarded teaching awards too. But outside of that, there's one person that I'm very, very, very fond of, and that's Morris Tugwell. And so early in my teaching, we had some mentorship programs at Acadia, and Morris sort of took me under his wing, and we didn't meet a lot, but he's a renowned teacher, and he taught me a lot about what it is to be an Acadia person, not just an Acadia professor, but just an Acadia person, supporting the institution, not just through teaching and research, but through community and so on and so forth. So, my hat's off to Morris, because he really made me feel welcome in the greater Acadia community. He was really important.
Absolutely, and certainly I know Dr. Tugwell very well as well, and like you, he has reached far and wide in his impact on people and students. Absolutely,
he reached me, and he just it made me feel very confident and comfortable being a part of not just a department or a faculty, but a bigger community. Um, and a few, just a few more, one other person I'd like to sort of shout out, and that was Darren Burns and the hockey team, Coach Burns, because very early I got involved in hockey, and we had kids that got involved in hockey. But through my whole career here, I've had a strong relationship with the hockey team, with him, and athletics has been a big part of my experience at Acadia too. Just really being a fan more than anything else, but also helping to contribute a little bit on the hockey side of things.
Absolutely, and certainly contributes back to that word that you used a few times already, and that's community. And certainly our athletic program and our teams and our games that we get to watch are absolutely part of that entire experience.
Absolutely.
So, and you may have started to touch on it, I don't know, but what is your fondest Acadia memory?
Uh, that's a really good question. I think a really hard one, but I'm just going to sort of stream of consciousness a few things. One was, I think it was the 94, 95, and I may be wrong. Somebody will catch this. CIS Hockey Championship. Why? Because I was new. I was applying for a full-time job at Acadia. It was an incredible experience. Just being a part of that team, not necessarily the championship. I didn't go to that. It was more the road to it. And I just remember the arena being packed. I said, I come from schools where nobody showed up for sporting events, very few. So to be a part of it, it was just, it was incredible. It was like being at an NHL game, And yep. So that's a very, very fond memory. Football, I've gone to football games and the UTech. And why these things are important to me is because it's the whole university there. It's not just my department. And certainly important things have happened in my department, but it's feeling really a part of something bigger than the department or the faculty. And meeting students and high-fiving students, So yeah, I a lot of very fond memories around our sports accomplishments.
That's for sure. And when you say high-fiving students, I mean, in a town like Wolfville and a campus like Acadia, you can't go to the grocery store without bumping into a student and saying hello and having a quick catch up, right?
Yeah, and them asking you, why did I get that mark?
Yeah.
But, no,
that happens too. You're absolutely right.
It's part of the responsibility and the charm, and you got to take a look at it both ways.
So, what does it mean to you to have received the Faculty Award for Excellence in Teaching?
I'd say the first thing I thought of was maybe a little embarrassment. My teaching style, I always thought was a little bit. I always think of myself as a joker in the deck, in that I'm very, I'm interactive. I'm not necessarily, I guess I can be kind of silly at times, but all I can think of is that the passion. I love teaching, and I feel just so fortunate. I never thought I'd be in this position. I really didn't, and I see a little bit of myself in so many students, and there's nothing I like more than what. The student who starts out in first year a little bit hesitant, a little bit unsure, and they blossom into, all this potential. So I was very, very gratified to be recognized by the students and the letters that they wrote. That means a lot because that's my legacy. I mean, my research is not really my legacy, though that's been a big part of my career. But I ultimately think the students that I've had, and so yeah, it's very, very complex emotions, but I'm proud of it, very proud of receiving this award, and it wasn't something that I expected at all.
Well, congratulations, and
Well,
the impact and the impression that you are referring to when you talk about teaching students and having that relationship with students. And you never really know which comment or which example that you've shared or led will make an impact on students moving forward. But you would well know, we were chatting just before we started this interview about, those who made impressions on your life and help guide you rather to where you are today. So you're doing the same thing now, which is tremendously rewarding, I suspect.
It's a huge responsibility. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. So, why do you think it's important for the Alumni Association to recognize award recipients in this way?
I think these kinds of this kind of recognition, well, I think it's extremely important. I think that one thing we perhaps do not do, society doesn't do particularly well, is tell people they're doing a good job. And I got a wonderful book when I started as director of research at the Casey Irving Environmental Science Center from the Irving family. I think it was from Sandra and Arthur, and it was Leaders Eat Last, and it was about leadership. But one of the things I read in there is just making sure that we tell people when they're doing a good job, and not just tell them, when they need to perhaps sharpen up on something. And so awards like this, I think, recognize people um, for the effort, the work they put into it. And it really sort of solidifies in many ways your sort of self-perception of what you've been doing. There's always doubt. In a field like teaching and research, there's always self-doubt. And an award like this helps you feel a little bit more comfortable that maybe you have been on the right path. It's incredibly important. This type of recognition, not obviously for me, but for whomever. We really need to acknowledge folks who are doing their very best.
That's so wonderful to hear. And the Alumni Association and the board members who represent the Alumni Association will be so pleased to hear that it does make that impact. And it's great advice, as you say, to acknowledge when people are doing great work. And that's exactly what they've done with this award and bestowing it on you. So you've been a professor and a leader in Acadia's Earth and Environmental Science Department for more than 25 years now, supervising an impressive number of master's and honors students over that period of time. What has been the most gratifying element of helping to shape the research and career interests of the many young people you've influenced?
I think the most gratifying thing, especially it's more gratifying as I get older, is to see where those folks have gone. And one anecdotal story is I've done a bunch of departmental reviews over the years for other schools, and the one thing I constantly hear is, "I wish we had students like you had at Acadia." And I'd say, well, we're very, very lucky. And I just had a student at my house who's just got his PhD, and he was at my house on Saturday. We had lunch together. He and his wife are looking to have a young child and another one on the way for a house in the area. He's working in Halifax, doing very well for the federal department. And they're having lunch with him. We're just talking about things, and those relationships, the successes, and they're not because of me. Like, I know that. But this student came from the States, came to Acadia, and they were somewhat shy, a little reticent. And to see what young people become in the right environment with the right support. And I really, really deeply believe that Acadia provides that so effectively. And I know we can always get better. And I think that's one of the signs of a great institution is striving to get better at what you do, not just saying we do it well, but getting better. But we really, like, I'd be very proud to have my kids were here. One of my kids was here, another went down the States to play varsity athletics, but it's really seeing their accomplishments.
Absolutely. And you humbly say that, it wasn't you, but absolutely part of that equation, or he wouldn't be visiting you when he had time to. And the only problem with that, of course, as you and I would both well know, is it just is a reminder of how much time has actually passed.
Yes, and it's getting to the point where students that I've had in graduate school or as undergraduate honor students, so you form really strong relationships, that their kids are considering Acadia, and I find that a little bit disconcerting, but also it's great. It's great, and as the director of research at the Irving Center, we often ask folks when they're applying for awards or grants or scholarships, why did you choose Acadia? And more often than not, I heard a friend, a family member came to Acadia and had a wonderful experience. So, I like to say the right institution or a great institution picked me. and that's why I'm here.
Well, we'll take it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I feel extremely lucky to be where I am.
So I'm going to take a bigger picture for a moment now, Ian. In all of this, the award, your accomplishments, the accomplishments of students whom you have taught and led and shared an example with. Do you consider all of this an investment in the world's environmental sustainability? I beg your pardon. And is the future in good hands? Just check with your crystal ball, essentially, is what I'm asking you to do.
Oh, yes. So I teach two courses that I think are really timely. One of them is environmental impact assessment, and another one is a new course called climate change for environmental practitioners. And what I see is a lot of very positive, a very positive attitude among students, given incredibly difficult situations. Mm-hmm. And that positivity, that energy, I think that isn't just the individuals, but it's the environment they're in. So even in COVID times here at Acadia, where half the students are here and half the students are online, in those classes I've seen energy, positive outlook to the future, and I know from the past that these students will go on to have very, very important positions in policy and science around Canada, around the globe, really. And so I am very, very encouraged by the folks that we work with, the young folks that we work with, and where they're going to take. I mean, they're the leaders of tomorrow, where they're going to take us. So, and I think that's got a lot to do with Nova Scotia, Wolfville, Acadia, and the way that we approach here education and interaction.
Absolutely. As you say, the leaders and the change makers of tomorrow. And something I've certainly recognized in recent years with our students is they're not putting up with much. They're like, no, and really not taking no for an answer, which I think is going to bode well for all of us in the very near future.
But they're solutions oriented too. That's what I love. And they're looking to solve problems and realistically. And I'm just super encouraged by that. It's a very positive way of looking at the challenges ahead of us.
Mm-hmm. You and I both. Mm-hmm. So, Dr. Spooner, as we wrap this up, take a moment, if you wouldn't mind, and share with our viewers a little bit about where you are now and what your plans are for the future.
It's never been busier for me from a research perspective. So we got a lot of grants, a really nice new lab, we're working a lot on contaminated sites, which is really kind of interesting, and a fair number of grad students. I figure I have maybe 3 or 4 years left, and then I'm going to move on perhaps to different things. So, it's been, I'm involved in some sort of extracurricular activities too that are kind of interesting and a little bit of a different path for me, sort of from a media point of view. And so all of that together, it's pretty exciting. I take great pride in working as the director of the Casey Irving Environmental Science Center and trying to build on the work that Dr. Dave Christie has done up there, working with the Irving Foundation and Dr. Ricketts and others for the Irving Center. So it's a fun time, a lot of things happening. Never been busier, but looking forward perhaps in a few more years to a little bit of a slowdown. So
that never been busier comment is, that sort of that last hurrah, that last wave that you're going to ride out.
I'm going to go out with a bang. I just go boom. But no, it's very good. It's a lot of support, institutional support, and still great students. So yeah, it's like a train that keeps on chugging down the track. Things are going quite well.
Well, as I said, Dr. Spooner, we are very, very lucky to have you. Congratulations once again on your receiving the Alumni Association Excellence in Teaching Award, part of the Faculty Award Program with the association. And thank you for choosing Acadia University and being with us.
Well, I thank Acadia for choosing me. So thank you very, very, very much, Una.